Hello, friends of YouTube. Welcome back to Mike Reads the World. Wow, did I not expect this book from North Korea to be one of the most profound meditations on marriage, divorce, love, uh, family living that I have ever read. Um, this was written by Paek Nam-Nyong. Paek Nam-Nyong. I am very sorry for all the pronunciation in this video. The book is called Friend, and it was first published in North Korea in 1988. After the novel, and what I really like is that this novel doesn't have an introduction, it has an afterword. I think more books should do that, and I also think it's a testament to me what are my favorite books is that even when a great book, comes from a different country, a limited understanding of that country's context does not hinder your ability to get something meaningful out of it. In almost every case, if I when I name all my favorite books, that is the case for all of them. They're countries that I know virtually nothing about, but the book communicated these essential universals of human, existence. Of the human condition that um, you don't the cultural context helps, but the book actually uses that stuff to enhance rather than to confuse the things that it's communicating. So with that preamble, this book is about North Korean divorce court. It follows a judge, who I would say the judge is kind of our main character, Jung Jin Woo, who there is a woman named Sun Hee that comes to him petitioning for a divorce. She is a singer, like a national singer, so she tours with a group, and they sing like nationalist songs of North Korea and so on. And her husband's a factory worker, Seok Chun. They have a little boy, but for many years she's not been getting on with him. And much of the book is Jung Jin Woo, the judge, basically, in the name of justice. It's so I'm going to get into this more in talking about my thoughts of the video, but just to give you an introduction, if you're thinking about reading this one, the judge kind of gets involved in trying to fix this marriage, and that's most of what's driving the book. He doesn't want to just go ahead and proceed with this divorce, and apparently getting divorced in North Korea, at least at this time period, if this book is any reflection of it, is not just a simple they want to get divorced. Basically, a state entity, has to approve a divorce, and there's a whole totally foreign concept of what constitutes a legitimate reason for divorce, like irreconcilable differences is the thing. I mean, I've never been through a divorce myself, but I imagine that this is quite different, and especially the way that the judge gets involved in the the whole situation, on almost a personal level, is very interesting, very unique. It's it's something like the judge almost takes on this personality of being a judge. Like, what is he a judge of exactly? He is there to uphold the law. He is there to investigate and prosecute, and to make final decisions. But in many senses, he becomes a judge of something more intangible that's going on between this couple, and he is very much reminded of his own marriage that is far from perfect. he is in fact starts this book as somewhat resentful of his own wife, ironically, as he works as a divorce lawyer, and he's getting so involved in this case trying to keep this couple from separating. I come to understand mostly for the sake of what he's seen and what he knows it does to children, and he's worried most about uh, their young boy that they have together, and the effect that it's going to have on him. Even going so far as to visit the house and interact with the boy without even the parents' knowledge, and interviewing both of the couples separately, trying to figure out, how did their relationship start. He goes back to how did they meet and how did their love first begin, and and then of course he thinks back to how he got married and how his love began with his wife. And I was just saying, his wife, he's resentful at the beginning of this book of her because she is so consumed in her work as an agricultural scientist. She is off in a distant province of North Korea, actually her hometown, where she is working to cultivate crops for this town or province, because essentially, in the past they haven't been really able to grow anything there, and food security has been a major issue in that area. So she's trying to do this agriculture research to find crops that can withstand this harsh, high altitude climate of her hometown. And like I said, this creates resentment for on the part of the judge, because he's at home and he has to take care of himself, and she's gone for so long, and he's in his 50s, but he's like, he looks at all these other families and says, why can't my wife just be at home like all other wives, and that kind of thinking. But you'll be happy to know that as the book goes on, it gets much more intricate, and his love for his wife really is rooted in the fact that she is so passionate for helping her hometown and her intelligence. And this goes back to how they met, and in many ways, the way the judge is trying to keep the Sun Hee and what's her husband's name, Sok-chun, together, becomes a reflection on his own marriage and his own feelings that he's working through. And that all kind of feeds back in the book. There isn't really like a villain of the novel per se. There's sort of an antagonist, but I don't really want to give away who that is. That's a major beat of the story. Obviously, what keeps you reading the book is wanting to know, just on a personal level, what happens to these characters. The book absolutely succeeds. Excuse me. Take a drink of tea here. The book absolutely succeeds in making me care about every single character, and they all came alive. Um, and especially in the afterword, it's really interesting the aspects of the author's life that would have connected to his writing of this book. And he is an author that is he's not like all these other a lot of other authors that you get from North Korea, where it's like they're escapees, they write about how horrible it is and so on. This is an approved author of North Korea. His work is approved by the government, and it's popular abroad. His work is popular in South Korea, and obviously is printed and published throughout other countries in the world, or I wouldn't have been able to get a hold of it, right? So he's lived in North Korea. He still lives there for all I know, or if he is, I don't know if he's still alive. I don't know that. But, his life all in North Korea. So the things that he experienced, like his wife dying young of a brain disease, it said in the afterword. He worked in a factory for many years, like the husband of this singer who, Sun He wants to divorce, and this husband. Uh, he's the hardest name for me to remember. Like, it's weird because when the name is so strange, it's like you don't even think about trying to remember it. The book kind of remembers it for you, and when you see it, you just know. Okay, Sukchun. It's, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right, obviously, but he works in a factory, most of the book, and is really dedicated. But he's his mind is really kind of stuck in the past, in this sort of conservative, like, factory worker communist socialist ideal that was a thing of the past, even in the 1980s in North Korea. So it just kind of goes to show how, like, how very narrow many people's visions of North Koreans are. I'm not talking about their government here. I'm not talking about politics. I'm talking about the North Korean people themselves. And I'm not talking about the people that escaped, you know, whatever. I'm talking about the North Koreans that just we don't hear from. We don't know anything about their lives really, and we don't understand what normalcy is like to them, and that, despite what appears to our outside world as a very closed, oppressive government, is actually a nation filled with a lot of complexities and a lot of, and you'll find this in the book, individual choice and individual navigation of the systems of this country, to bring about, to basically bring about ethical conclusions. The judge in this book, and the way it's written, gives me a sense that in the 1980s, well, and it says in the afterword, that there was this movement in the 1980s in North Korea to celebrate intellectual innovation, and there were government rewards given to people in factories, or supposed to be given to people in factories, that showed that they invented a new type of machine or something, and that's kind of what this Sok-chun is doing. But his wife resents him for dedicating himself so much to this. She wants him to go to school and become an engineer, and there's like all these complexities, that it's just a perspective of a different world, really. That is exactly the kind of thing that reading the world is like. These are the kind of books that you read the world for, honestly. And especially if you are interested in North Korea in any way, even if you totally despise their political system, you can learn a lot from this book, and it just totally humanizes the North Koreans themselves, and again shows all of that. How the judges is he draws on the sort of like socialist laws, the whatever constitutional, social, communist or socialist laws they're based on, but he's navigating the system, trying to just find human ethical conclusions. I don't know if I'm saying this right. Um, and there's also a sense of like there was the past North Korea and there's a future North Korea that needs to combat bureaucratic corruption. There definitely is a part of this book that deals with the corruption of the system of rewards that are supposed to be handed out to workers, and the judge navigating this and trying to prosecute that, and it's just I don't know. It's that's all I'm saying. This is probably, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is probably the most nuanced and human look you're going to get into just a normal person's life, or several normal people's lives, and the way they treat marriage and family and friends, that you're going to get. There are some really beautiful metaphors in the book, some beautiful scenes, especially of how, the love between the judge and his wife began. And as I said, that's kind of a mirror of what's going on in the story. There's a wise kind of school teacher whose husband is a drunk, which is like a third couple. So there's really like three troubled couples in this book, and they all have something a little bit different to say, and they all come to their own special resolution. And all right, if you're already interested, go read the book. I'm just going to say a few more things with that aren't going to like completely spoil it, but might give a hint as to how it ends. I just want to dispel the idea that this book ends in sort of a very preachy way, because that might be what you'd think, being a book that's approved by a government that has to approve all the books in the country. It isn't this perfect, morality writing. The end is as messy as the beginning, but it also is not like it's not a perfect happy ending, but it's also not like a tragic, terrible ending either. It's just again, I keep coming back to the word complexity, a book full of the complexities of life in a world that is very closed off to many of us, and the media in most of our countries doesn't really do much to show this level of just, everyday life humanity of North Koreans. So I think this is just a really incredible book. Uh, I don't know. I don't know if I quite count it among like, oh, my absolute favorites of this project, but it's like certainly close. It's quite, like, again, I don't know if I'm ever going to, just for fun, rank all the books that I read for this project, but I have a feeling it would be at this point in the top third at least. It is really good. Uh, just beautiful, and I really want to share the ending line, just because, and this is more for me because this is a vlog, a video log of my reading experience. But I just thought this ending line was so beautiful, and it won't spoil the book, but like, no, just you know, this is for those of you who've already read this. Come back and just share with me the beauty of this ending line, okay? Read the book and then come back and share this with me. There are people who dream of building a family, and there are people who already live in one. There is no one without a family. A family is where the love of humanity dwells, and it is a beautiful world where hope flourishes. I mean, it's meaning of life stuff right here, and there's this beautiful metaphor towards the end of the book toward the wind, how the wind is this sort of, it's, comes from China, and it's just this force that is always searching for something, always moving on, and it's like a force that has no family, a force that's absent of what it is. And it was funny because during the snowstorm that we had here in my home state, recently, there, I was just sitting in a dark room, and I made up this poem in my head about a um, the wind, the sound of the wind, and how it carried. I should just share the poem with you, right? Um, but I'm already talking, but my mind's in a different mindset right now. I'm not in poetry reading mode, but the idea was that the wind is like this thing that carries all of history, all of time, all of mankind, and then recedes. But it's an entity of nothing. Whether we are here or not, the wind continues and comes back, but something still changes, something shifts, and that's all part of the big plan. But then this book kind of takes us back to, like, okay, come back. You're a human being. What is it that we human beings, create the warmth around us? What do we do to ease the sufferings of others in this world? No matter where we're born, if we're born in North Korea, it doesn't matter if we're born in the United States, it doesn't matter if you're born in Turkey, it doesn't matter if you're born, or Turkey, whatever. It doesn't matter where you're from. Uh, you you can build family. You can build empathy. You can ease the sufferings of others. You can make individual ethical choices within whatever system you're in, with these sort of core values that you can find. And I think that was part of what really shook me about Thomas Mann's The Magic Mountain, is just this understanding of what it is that, by exploring everything around that idea without ever saying it. And that's topic for another video that I said I was going to make a long video for The Magic Mountain, but now I don't know when it's going to happen. It's just making a produced video is just writing the script is an incredible amount of work, and every book I read is bringing in new ideas, and it almost just becomes this impossibly big video essay every time I sit down to work on it. So it's like The Magic Mountain, although I'd say it's probably like my favorite book that I've read in this project, it can't fit in a video, and it can't fit in a video. It's just going to sprawl. The ideas and the way that book has affected me is just going to sprawl into the rest of the project, I think. But this, I didn't expect to find a connection there, but it's like that basic human warmth coming before ideals is a really important idea in my life, and it's why I've always said, like, never put politics before family and friends. And I know some people say, well, that's really hard to do. A lot of people have responded to me that way. Wow, that's really hard to do. But it's honestly, I don't find it hard to do. So, but you can say whatever you want about that. But I think there's definitely, back to the point, friend. I find that, like, what a powerful title for this book, and I think it's referring to the judge in the way that he's trying to save this marriage, and his motives for doing it are very complex. They're intertwined with what the state wants him to do, and with what he feels is right, and what he has observed that divorce does to children, and there's that whole dynamic between the conservative values of the country and the progressive ideas of, like, okay, we need to reward innovators and so on. It's yeah. All right, now I'm just repeating myself. So thank you for watching this video. Rambly as usual. It's usually the more I like a book, the more rambly it gets, right? And are always very cringy for me to go back and watch. But Friend, a novel from North Korea by Paek Nam-Nyong, translated by Emmanuel Kim. Good job, Emmanuel Kim, on the translation. I'm sorry it took me so late in the video to say that, too. As I'm going to start doing our house plant of the week, this is a bonsai I bought. It's should have enough water. Maybe it has too much water, I don't know, but it's still alive. Leaves are growing. A lot of leaves fell when I first bought it. This is a Chinese fig tree, I think. Ficus microcarpa is the scientific name, at least when I searched it in Google. But I just thought it was, like, so beautiful, like that knot in there, and just the way the roots. It's like I had seen so many of these, but this one was just so perfect and such a beautiful form that I was like, I had to buy it. And I hope it likes its spot, and I hope it will continue to survive, because this whole, like, houseplants thing is kind of new to me. So wish me luck, I guess. Anyway, thanks. We'll see you next time on Mike Reads the World. Have a great night.